Imagine that you and your friend are deep in the wilderness, at a lake without a trail, enjoying a beautiful day catching fish, when all of a sudden something happens that makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up. Something that to this day, you still can't explain. To get started with the story, we got to go all the way back to the beginning. The year was 2021. My wife had just had our first baby. It was my final year of residency. Life was pretty chaotic, to say the least. My friend Breck, who you guys have seen if you've ever seen this channel before, sensed how stressed I was and invited me to go out fishing. I think he knew that I needed a day to just kind of get out and de-stress and kind of get a nice reset of things. So he had come up with the idea to go target Arctic grayling. And this was a species of fish that neither of us had ever caught before. So he looked up the places that we could go. He planned out this entire trip. He had done all the kind of the heavy research, and then I was just kind of tagging along for the day, just kind of a dude's day to get out and go fishing and have a nice mental reset. So Breck picks me up early one morning. This was in, I believe, September, beginning of September. So it was kind of like a nice fall, crisp morning. We drive up to the Uintas. And if you're not familiar with the Uintas is a mountain range in Utah that kind of extends a little bit into Wyoming. It runs east to west. It's kind of unique in that sense. It's got the highest peak in Utah, which is Kings Peak, and the Uintas is absolutely beautiful. There's more than 1,000 lakes in the Uintas. More than half of them have fish. You just kind of have endless opportunities to go out there and catch all kinds of fish, truly. There's lots of different species. There's tiger trout, rainbow trout, brook trout, cutthroat trout, Arctic grayling, golden trout. Like, it's just such a unique area, very high elevation, all alpine lakes. I think it's one of the most beautiful areas that I've ever been. I absolutely love going up into the Uintas. I try to spend up as much time up there as possible. And it's truly one of my favorite places. Having lived in Utah for the time that I have, I've really fallen in love with the Uintas. The lake that we went to doesn't have a designated trail to the lake. It's about 5 miles off of the road. You kind of just follow your bearings and you end up headed up towards this lake. There's kind of a steep climb at the end, and then you drop down into this nice bowl where the lake is. It was just absolutely beautiful morning. Weather was perfect. We started the hike in. He had brought his dog along with him, which is a golden doodle, I believe. He'll be mad at me if I get that wrong. But a pretty big dog. A dog that loves being outside and fishing with us and is just happy to be along for the ride, honestly. We had this beautiful hike in. As we were going up, we kind of got to this steep climb. We crossed over kind of this boulder field for a while, and then we had to drop down, like I said, into where the lake was. You kind of go from like big boulders and trees to just this open lake with crystal clear water. When you kind of get to the lake, there's kind of a ridge with a large like rock slide on the one side of the lake, and then across from the lake there's kind of trees and it's more flat. There's some large boulders, but it's not like this huge ridge with like a huge rock slide like it was on the one side of the lake. We decided to go along the side of the lake with the big rock slide. There's quite a bit of open space for fishing water there, so we kind of just walked along until we got to some rocks and we kind of set up our stuff there. When we got to the lake, we could see something red across from the lake. It looked like a tent material, so we thought maybe somebody was camping across the lake there. We didn't think too much of it when we were getting there to the lake, but that was something that we noticed when we first got there, that there was something red across the lake from us on the flat side where the trees and the more flat ground was. We set up at the lake, we start fishing, and it's just one of those days that you dream about. It was like just unreal, the amount of grayling that we were catching. Like I said, this was a new species of fish for us, and so we were just so excited to be there catching fish. It was just fish after fish after fish, and the Arctic grayling were long and slender and a big dorsal fin and rainbow colored, and they kind of looked like mermaids when they moved through the water. It was really cool. It was really kind of an unreal experience. And it was like that for honestly like the first couple hours when we got there. It was like one of those days where you cast, and if you miss the take, you cast right back to the same spot, and that same fish comes up and takes the fly again. And so we're just having way too much fun, honestly. There gets to be a point where it's just like almost unreal. And so we're just catching fish, and we're kind of probably getting a little bit too loud. I think it was just kind of like the relief of being outside and being in nature, and then just the fun of catching the fish. It got to a point where we were probably being a little bit too noisy. And I had brought my GoPros along. I generally like to film when I'm out in nature, and I know I'm gonna get a little bit of flack, but I had just turned the GoPro off, and we were still just kind of fishing. My buddy Breck was down the bank from me, maybe 25, 30 yards, not too far away, and then his dog was kind of between us. His dog just kind of kept going back and forth, and all of a sudden there was like this boulder. It was so much bigger than any type of rock that I could have like picked up and thrown myself, but it comes from the flat side across the lake from us. It didn't fall behind like in this like rock slide behind us. It came from across the lake, and it gets launched out in the water, and it lands maybe 20 yards in front of us. And so it's not like a huge lake, but this thing comes flying out across and then lands kind of between my friend Breck and I. Instantly, like the hair on the back of my neck stood up. I got really quiet. My instant gut feeling was that was a warning, you need to be quiet. It's giving me chills just even thinking about it right now. But that was my gut feeling, was like we were being too loud potentially, and we had annoyed the people or whoever was there, and then that came out and landed right between us, and that was a warning that we needed to shut up and be respectful. I honestly didn't know what it was, what the heck just had happened. I was kind of in shock for just a second, but we both got super quiet. Neither of us said anything. We both just kind of looked at each other, and then I just remember staring across the lake at that, kind of just at the trees, and just watching to see if I see any type of movement whatsoever. And I honestly don't feel like I moved for probably 30 minutes. I didn't cast my line, I didn't keep fishing. I just like stood there like frozen basically, and was just watching across the lake to see if I saw any type of movement whatsoever. Because I truly felt like that was something that I could not have picked up and thrown out there, and I had no idea where it really even came from, other than I saw that it was coming across the lake and then just kind of landed between us. After a while, I kind of worked my way over to Breck a little bit closer. We started talking. His dog was really spooked, kind of the hair on the back of his neck standing up a little bit, and was acting really strange, also staring across that side of the lake with us. We kind of talked for a little bit quietly, like we weren't being loud and obnoxious probably like we were before. We kind of just sat there and we talked for a little bit. And then we remembered that we had seen something red across the lake when we got there. And so we said, well, maybe somebody's camped over there. Maybe we pissed somebody off. Maybe we were being too noisy, whatever. So after sitting there for a while, we said, well, maybe we should walk over there and see if there's somebody over there that we had upset, which I know sounds dumb now thinking about it. Whenever you watch like a horror movie or some movie about something strange happening in the wilderness, you're like, just get out of there, you know? Don't go walk over there. But we decided to, so we left our gear over there. We took our fly rods with us, and we just kind of walked our way around to that side. And that side was really kind of spooky to me. The side that we were fishing on with the rock slide, like you could see everything that was around you. When you got over there, the trees were fairly dense, and I couldn't see really anything that was going on around us. I remember just being like really unnerved as we walked around that side of the lake, just kind of unsettled. And Cosmo, the dog, was also pretty unsettled. He was acting really strange and didn't really want to be on that side of the lake either. So we kind of walked around, again, very dense trees. I couldn't really see, like I was like, felt like I was just on high alert, watching for any type of movement, because I didn't know if a bear or something was, I don't know. Dude, I really didn't know what was going on. But we worked our way around to where we saw the red when we got there, and it wasn't really what either of us were expecting. When we walked around there to the side of the lake, there was, where we saw the red, there was a men's t-shirt kind of like a men's tank top, and then a woman's tank top, like a Nike dry fit material. There was a balled up roll of socks. There was a gallon jug of water that was sitting right there that was full, and we didn't see anybody. There wasn't a tent. There wasn't a camp set up. We didn't see any people. There was just these clothes, and they were kind of just like scattered and thrown into the bushes with a balled up roll of socks placed down onto the ground, and then that jug of water, like I said, which was spooky. We didn't see any other signs of people. There was kind of like a little bit of a drop off behind that spot, and we kind of walked around there for a second, didn't see anybody. We called out, didn't see or hear anybody, and I wasn't liking being on that side of the lake, to be honest. We decided we were going to work our way back around to the rock slide so that we could at least see. I didn't like being on that side because I felt like somebody could attack us or something could come out of the trees and get us, whatever. So we walked back around to the rock slide side with the ridge, where at least it was more open, and we kind of ate something, just kind of settled down, talked for a little bit. We didn't see or hear anything else weird, and so we actually decided to keep fishing for a little bit. So again, the horror movies, you're like, dude, just get out of there. What the heck are you thinking? But yeah, we stayed there and fished for a few more hours, and we had fun. We had a good time. There was eventually, like maybe an hour or two later, like a mom and a son that came up to the lake, and they were trail runners. They had just barely got there. We talked to them for a second. They didn't see or hear anything weird, so they kind of went past us and then headed off back down the trail. But that was it. Those were the only other people that we saw that day. So we fished for a little bit longer, and then we packed up. I was honestly a little bit nervous to head out because I was like, we got to go back down through these trees, but we hiked back down. We made it to this old logging road, and we hiked out to the car, and nothing else weird happened. That's kind of the extent of the weirdness that happened that day. In that moment when that boulder hit the water between us, that was, I say boulder too, because it wasn't like a rock. It was significant. Man, that really just kind of spooked me. Really was unsettling. I didn't really know what to think about it. We joked about it like, oh, we pissed off Bigfoot, you know? It wasn't until the next day that I had got to the office, and one of the medical assistants that was there in the office, she asked about the weekend, and I was just like, oh yeah, we had this great time fishing. Something weird happened though, you know, this freaking boulder came flying out, landed between my friend and I while we were fishing up at this lake. And she kind of stopped and was like, had like her jaw dropped, and she was like, no way. And she sent me like all these podcasts of fishermen telling stories about rocks getting thrown at them, and they're saying that it's Bigfoot, whatever. I didn't realize that was a thing, but apparently Bigfoot throwing rocks at fishermen is a common occurrence, or I guess if you believe in that or not. I still don't know where I stand on the whole subject. I did do more of a kind of a dive on the history of that area. It's actually right next to a place that they call the Bigfoot Basin up there in the Uintas. That's a colloquial name. That's not an actual name of the area, but that's just kind of what people call that area, is the Bigfoot Basin. So we were kind of right next to that, actually. And then you get on Reddit and these backcountry.com, and you see all these stories of people up there into the Uintas having strange stories of Bigfoot sightings and stuff. And so I still don't know what to think about it. I'm kind of making this video hoping to get maybe some feedback, some comments or something of people that can tell me what they think it is. I'm always interested to see or hear what other people have experienced, or if they have any other input about it. For all I know, it could have been a plane flying overhead that dropped something, or I don't know. I truly don't know. I don't know what it was. But I just know in that moment when that hit the water, I trust my instincts quite a bit, and that feeling of that was a warning shot. You need to shut up. You need to be respectful. You need to be quiet. Man, that just was reverberating through my body. And for that 30, 45 minutes where we just both sat there and didn't move, that was pretty scary. That was a strange feeling, a strange occurrence. And especially when you're off the beaten path, there's not an actual trail that takes you to this lake. It's not a very common place for people to go. And then to see the clothes and stuff over there, it was all strange. If you guys have an idea of what you think it is, let me know down in the comments below. It very well could have been just somebody messing with us, somebody throwing rocks, or do you guys think that Bigfoot is in the Uinta Mountains and throws rocks at fishermen that are being loud and obnoxious? Because that's what we were being that day. Let me know down in the comments, and I'm truly curious to see what people have to say and what everybody might think about that story. So I know this video is a little bit different. I've actually been wanting to share this experience for a while. I was just kind of waiting for the right time, and this felt like the right time. So again, let me know what you guys think. And if you like this style and want to hear more stories, then let me know down in the comments. Thanks everybody. We'll see y'all next time.